Um,
Mhm.
but let's start with our kickoff segment, sponsored by Canada Kicking Academy. Calling all kickers and punters in the Southern Ontario region. If you are looking for year-round professional development with elite competition, you need to train with the Canada Kicking Academy. The Ferraro brothers, Daniel and Gabe, are both University of Guelph alumni, and they want to teach you everything they've learned over the years. If you want to take your special teams game to the next level, visit them at CanadaKickingAcademy.com or on Instagram at Canada Kicking Academy. And Kyle, we are starting with Leafs. Past week,
Yep.
Jake Muzzin was placed on long-term injury reserve, and that was a scary looking injury, complete incidental. Obviously, I'm not saying that was on purpose because it wasn't. They turned into each other. Just a bad situation. He's in concussion protocol.
Yep.
The questions now become how long will he be on the LTIR? Because if he's there for a while, that changes kind of what they're doing, right? Like I'm not crazy in thinking that if he's on the LTIR for the rest of the season, that changes how the team approaches the deadline.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is one. I think they're glad they made that Labushkin deal now because they added that extra piece that they didn't necessarily have before.
Yeah.
So you're not necessarily running with three super young defensemen who have very limited NHL game time. Labushkin's been in the NHL. You know what you're getting with him. Like it's nothing special. Don't get me wrong, but in saying that, it's a solid NHL defenseman who's good at defending, basically.
Exactly.
So, he can kind of step in and kind of do what Muzzin was doing, obviously with a little bit less of a contract. But obviously, Muzzin is a big miss in that lineup. He wasn't playing the greatest this year. He definitely was. There was room in his game to improve compared to where he was. Let's say
Right.
that.
And that's
Um,
that's something that I want to touch on, right?
yeah.
Like, yes, obviously losing a Jake Muzzin should be a big impact on the team, right? Like you would think any other season it would be a big loss.
Yeah.
But this year is it? Like I don't think Muzzin has played up to his potential this year. I think he has looked very, very pedestrian most of the season.
Yep.
He has not looked like himself. And at 5.625, that's you can't really be pedestrian, right? If
Yeah.
he's
He,
on a
he's
$3
five.
million
He's
dollar
five. Five
contract,
point six five. Yeah. 5.65 US cap hit.
yeah, right? Like if he's on a 3 or a $2 million deal looking pedestrian, okay, fine. Like you can kind of let it go. A second pairing defenseman, not a big deal. At 5.625, that's a big contract for someone to not look strong. I think
Yep.
is the best thing, right? Like he's making more than TJ Brody.
Yep.
And he's not playing better than TJ Brody in my opinion. I think Brody has played significantly better than Jake Muzzin this year. I actually think that when he's on his game, Sandin has played better than Muzzin.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is you know what you're getting with Muzzin, and I think Muzzin is the type of defenseman where in the regular season, I mean, he is what he is, but I think in the playoffs is where you truly see where Muzzin kind of shines.
And I hope
Uh,
so, but
very much like Savard when he was playing with Tampa in the regular season. He was just another defenseman, but in the playoffs, all of a sudden he becomes that guy where it's like, oh, no, I don't want to go up against that guy.
right. And
Or
I think
very much like Sherratt was for Montreal last year,
yeah. I think my
right?
concern is that last year he looked so good in the regular season. Like he was arguably behind Morgan Riley, our second best defenseman, and it was a lot closer between him and Riley than most people want to admit last season. This
Yep.
season he looks like he lost a step. He doesn't look like he knows where he's supposed to be some games. Like he just doesn't look right.
Yeah,
And
I mean, it definitely will age is a factor too, right?
yeah,
He's 33 now,
yeah,
so maybe it's the start of the cliff type of
yeah.
thing. So,
That
um,
was just a concern for me. So he's at 5.625 for the next 2 years after this.
yep,
But let's refocus back to now. He's on LTIR. That means his
yep,
contract comes off the books while he's on LTIR, obviously.
yep,
5.625. We're gonna play a little scenario here, Kyle. Okay.
yep.
If they think he's gonna be on LTIR for 2 weeks,
Hmm.
probably doesn't change their deadline targets, right? Like They're probably
Correct.
going the same thing because the cap's going to come back, right? You're not getting that 5.625 for the rest of the year.
Yep.
But if they believe that he is done for the season, which a lot of people are speculating that they might tell him to be done for the season, which I'm not a big fan of, but in the interest of playing devil's advocate here,
Yep.
who should the Leafs go after to fill that defensive hole and then possibly build on the playoff roster with that extra cap?
I think that, to be honest, I don't think they need forwards. I think that's the biggest thing. I think their forward group currently as is, they're perfectly fine.
Right.
And if they need some bonus help, I mean, they just called up Nick Robertson. There's your bonus help. There's your extra scoring forward that you wanted to acquire at the deadline. There's your
And
scoring forward.
if you're not targeting a forward and you're going after a defenseman, you can always get a forward thrown into it.
100%.
Right?
And I think with this new cap space, I think if the Leafs had this cap space and they knew Muzzin was going to be out for the rest of the regular season and then he'll come back for playoffs, I truly do think the Leafs would have swung a trade for Chychrun along with Lyubushkin. I think they would have got both. So I think they may revisit Arizona. They might go after Chychrun now with that extra cap space. And I mean, if Chychrun turns out to be good and Lyubushkin's fine, then all of a sudden there's your pairing for next year. And maybe Muzzin's gone in the offseason. Maybe it's like, hey, well, we just can't afford your contract anymore. Bye. And then you got a top four of Brody, Riley, Lyubushkin, and Chychrun. And I would be totally okay with that. Or you drop Lyubushkin down, you put Sandin in there. Either one.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're like, okay, we're good. I mean, Lyubushkin is a free agency. You have to re-sign him. But
probably don't have to sign him for that much.
I mean, you sign him for $1.5 million. Like
exactly.
It's not. You're basically signing what you signed Dermott to, basically.
Yeah.
So to me, like I think that would be probably the ideal defenseman. I think if you had to have maybe like a fallback option, I think you look at Ben Sherratt in Montreal, very much the same type of player as Muzzin is. That could be an option as well. Obviously, I think to me, that comes down to asking price. That's the biggest thing for me.
Right.
Am I wanting to give up a first and a prospect for Ben Sherratt? Not a chance.
But I'd give up a first and a prospect for Chychrun.
Oh, not even a question. Like to me, it'd be.
I know. I'm going to throw this out there. First up, guys, AK and Carlo, they threw out, or Carlo threw out Robertson and a first for Chychrun.
It's got to be more than that, but I can see it.
No, but like that's the basis of that. That's the main part of the deal right there. Is Robertson a first for Chychrun, and then maybe you got to throw in somebody else and grab an extra body from Arizona, right?
Yeah, I think at this point, I don't know if they will grab another body just because I don't think there's any other good contracts. I think like unfortunately, Dzingel's contract was good enough,
Yeah,
but we couldn't afford it at the time. That's the biggest thing.
right. But what about like you throw in like a Lawson Krause? Because he's not fitting it in Arizona. He's struggling in Arizona.
Yeah, I could definitely see something like that. The biggest thing is, would Lawson Krause take over other people? I don't know. At this point, I don't know if he would play on that.
No,
Maybe
but
he'd play on the
you're
fourth
saying
line,
that they
but-
have to throw something else in, right? So
Well,
Robertson a first.
no, I'm saying Toronto has to throw something in.
I
not
know.
Arizona.
I understand. That.
So yeah, so I think to me the deal would probably be Dermott or Hole,
Okay.
Niemela or Robertson, because I would not include Matthew Nyes. I think he's
No.
honestly a steal from last year, and a first round pick is what I think it would take.
Okay.
And I think if that's the case, then I have no problem with that asking price. I mean, you're getting a legit top 2/top 4 defenseman at $4 million,
4.6.
which you do not find very often.
4.6 is what Chychrun's at. And honestly, he's also signed through the 2024-25 season. So you got 3 more years at 4.6 of a top defenseman. I love
And
that.
it's basically the same as
He's 23.
Matthews, right?
Huh?
Isn't he the same type of time frame as Matthews for the contract?
Possibly one.
I think.
No. He's got an extra year on Matthews. Matthews only has 2 after this.
Oh, okay.
Tavares and Marner are the same year as Chychrun.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, I would say that would be the ideal one. I think a sneaky one would be Mark Giordano from Seattle.
Yep. I was thinking
He
Alexiak from
was.
Seattle, but I like your thinking too.
See, I like Giordano because he was TJ Brody's partner in Calgary, so that's an automatic fit there.
But then who
Um,
plays with Riley?
who plays with Riley?
That's my only concern. I like the thinking that you have, but who plays with Riley if you take Brody off of his partnership, right?
Yeah,
That's why I'm thinking Alexiak, because Alexiak's also signed for the next 4 years as well at 4.6, plays both sides, right?
yeah.
So that gives you a little bit of flexibility as opposed to having who keeps flipping sides? Is it Lilgren or Dermott?
Well, Dermot's barely in the lineup, so it's got to be Logan.
Because one of the bottom three, like either him, Dermott, or Sandine, keep flipping sides left to right because they don't know where to play them, and depends on who they're playing with. But Alexiak already does that. They already have that in Alexiak. If he joins 4.6, same price as Chikrin. He's a little older. He's 29, signed for 4 more years. But he's a guy who
Yeah.
can move the puck. He's a guy that he has a good shot. He skates well. That's a guy that you could also bring in and have no problems with for the next few years.
Yeah, I think the only thing with that is
And he's
you're
probably
tied
cheaper.
to that contract. That's the only problem, right? Giordano is a free agent.
Right.
So
But he's
I
also
think the biggest,
6.75.
well, yeah, but Seattle would retain minimum half. They might do that three-way deal where it ends up being Giordano's contract's $1.5 million, and all of a
Right.
sudden the Leafs can go out and get somebody else because
Right.
Giordano's going to cost them like third, maybe a second.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those ones where like that type of thing may work out in the Leafs' favor if they truly do want to keep Muzzin too, right? Because basically, if you go out and get Alexiak or you basically go out and get Chikrin, Muzzin's gone.
And I know
So
this is going to sound
I think
really weird.
they need to evaluate long term. I think too, right? Because if you get one of those guys with term, Muzzin has to be gone. It's simple as that.
Right.
You can't afford four defensemen at $5+ million
Right.
or
And
$4+ million, whatever.
going into this season, this statement would have sounded really, really weird. I'm okay with them moving Muzzin in the offseason.
Oh, I agree. I think one, you might struggle to find somebody to take a $5 million contract
Well,
for a
it
30.
depends, right? Like, I
Well,
mean,
for a
what if
34 potential year, like he'd be 34 by the time next year happens.
right?
So,
But what if
I mean,
okay, let's say Arizona they try to go get Chikrin, right?
yeah,
Arizona needs to get to the floor most years.
yeah,
Hey, we'll throw in Muzzin.
yeah. I think. Well, for the Leafs' perspective, I don't think I would trade him now.
No. Like what I'm saying is like you put a deal in place with Arizona and say like, listen, we know you guys are going to need a top four defenseman next year, right?
Yeah,
We're most likely moving on from Muzzin in the offseason if we make this deal with Chikrin. Let's put two
yeah,
deals in place. One for now, one for the offseason, and we'll go from there. Right?
yeah. I mean, I could see something. Yeah,
Because like you're right. If they bring in a guy like Chikrin or they bring in a guy like Alexiak or whatever, um, he has to go. Like you don't have any other options for guys around that price range that you're gonna move.
yeah,
Everyone keeps talking about Kerfoot, but why would you move a guy at 3.5 who plays on your second line and could play all the way up and down your lineup
hmm
with ease when Muzzin hasn't been playing well, he's getting older, and you can replace him with one of these defensemen that you're in. Like
Well,
we said,
and I think that's the biggest thing. I think if they are going to trade him, they got to acquire somebody now or very early in the offseason to give them the most amount of time to try and trade that contract. I
agreed. That's
mean,
what I'm saying. Like I think they need to do it now. If
I
he's going to
think
be
I
out for
think
the rest of the year, you do it now.
well, and I think that's truly the thing they got to figure out, right? If he's out long term and we're talking like might not even come back for playoffs, you go out and you get Chikrin the best possible option.
Yeah,
If
agreed.
he is going to be back by playoff time and they're going to try and do like the Kucherov thing where it's hey, just sit on LTIR, we'll come bring you back for the first game of playoffs, then I could see it being a rental guy where they'll just stack their top six this year and maybe they'll evaluate a Chikrin trade in the offseason.
Yeah,
Right. So maybe it's a Giordano at the deadline. You find who he's going to play with. You know, maybe you bump Riley down and you play Giordano Brody, and in the playoffs it's Giordano Brody, Muzzin, Riley, and obviously you got Sandin and Labushkin. That's a pretty solid top six. I'm not going to complain about that whatsoever. Like that would be one of those ones where, you know, if that's the case, I would have no concerns about our defense in the playoffs. Right. So, like, to me, if that's the case, then that's the type of thing you look at. If Muzzin's like, no, he's not going to come back at all this year, then I think Chikrin's the better option.
Right. Okay. I'm just thinking about it now because you were saying the possible pairings. What about a Riley Labushkin pairing? Wouldn't they kind of complement each other almost perfectly?
Yeah, you would.
Labushkin doesn't like moving the puck, so he usually defers or shoots it up. So if he's deferring to Riley all the time, who loves having the puck on his stick,
Yeah.
and likes to go forward, Labushkin's a defensive defenseman. Like that's all. That sounds scarily perfect.
It does, and that's
on
what
paper.
that's what kind of scares me. Is it sounds so good,
It
yet
sounds
it's one of those.
too good.
It's one of those. Do you want Labushkin playing 25 minutes a night?
Right. And that's the question. But I mean, in your thing though, you have Giordano and Brody as the other pair, right? So you're splitting.
Yeah.
You're probably close to 22 minutes a night for all four.
Yeah, give or take. Yeah.
Right, and you're roughing in 16 minutes for the bottom pair of Muzzin and Hall or
Maybe Muzzin and
Sandin.
Sandin. Hall would likely be gone. In the
Oh,
trade,
you're saying Hall's gone. Okay, got you.
Or in the press box. He's been terrible this year. So.
Yeah, not arguing, but
I guess the biggest question would be for a team trade, like for the Leafs, would you rather get rid of Hall or would you rather get rid of Dermott? And I think the Leafs would rather get rid of Hall, but I think teams would rather have Dermott because he's young and under contract and has a chance to actually improve.
Well, Hall's under contract too,
but he's not young, and he has no room to improve.
Valid. Okay, well, it will be interesting to see how the Leafs approach the deadline for sure. I'm interested to see who they, if they bring anybody in, and if they do bring somebody in, who they bring in. But that'll do it for our kickoff segment, sponsored by Canada Kicking Academy. If you're looking for year-round professional development with elite competition, you need to train with the Canada Kicking Academy. Visit them at CanadaKickingAcademy.com or on Instagram at Canada Kicking Academy. Huge shout-out to Gabe. Just got his real estate license, eh? See that on the weekend? Yeah, good for him. Proud of him.